Yo, what's good? What's going on, man? Welcome to the Jay and Dre Show. I'm your boy Jay.
I'm your host, Dre.
We have a very dynamic, somewhat controversial topic that needs to be discussed. One of the big stereotypes and one of the things that people outside of the African American community point to is that black fathers are missing in action. So without trying to put it in a pretty bow, I'm going to ask you straight up. Are black fathers M.I.A?
I think this is a very, very dynamic answer to that. And it's not fully a yes or no in the classical sense. As a whole, I'm going to say yes. Black fathers are present and involved in their kids' lives. However, to varying extents. As you know, a lot of children today are born out of wedlock, and
72%. I read a stat. Before we started. 72% of African American. I'm sorry. 72% of African American kids are born out of wedlock. That was the stat.
well, I was going to speak nationally because I want to say it's something like 60% nationally. So it's not simply like black folks are having children out of wedlock disproportionately higher. So much so than other races, like everybody having children out of wedlock. But with that, I think if you're thinking of the classical dad who's always there, married, kisses mom before he goes out to work, then I would say no. That's not how the average black family looks. But if you're asking me if that father is involved in that kid's life, is that father spending time with his kids? Is he reading to his kids? Is he at their sports games? Or is he contributing to their life in some way? I would say yeah. Honestly, I know this is a little bit anecdotal, and with anecdotes, it can go both ways. It could be those who would say it's not, and those who say it is, but myself, I'm in that situation. I have a couple cousins in that situation. Shout out to my big cousin Nate. But I mean, everybody that I know and I've been connected to, if they aren't in a relationship with the mother of their child, I can guarantee you they're seeing that child at some point in the week. They're talking to their child. Like, their child knows them in some type of way. And granted, that's not to say that it's overwhelmingly and that it's all. I'm not speaking like that. But I would say that the majority of men are involved in black men are involved in their kids' life in some type of way, shape, or form. And I think it far outweighs those who aren't.
And I like what you did when you corrected me earlier, because it's kind of one of the points I was going to hit on. Now, the stat I saw was 72% of African American babies are born out of wedlock, right? And you turn around and say, well, nationally, 68%. Well, see, the reason why people believe that black fathers are M.I.A. is because of what I said. You see the first stat, and that stat is promoted. It's shown on TV. They have the panel discussions, and they talk about it. Wow, only 28% of black babies born with both parents are blah, blah, blah. But they don't turn around and say, well, nationally, it's 66, 68%, which is not a significant difference. So I think the reason why people would believe that black fathers are missing in action is because it's been so entrenched and broadcast and put forth to look like African American fathers are not present, that people believe it. Now, what I read stated this. It also stated that 1 out of 12 African American men are in prison, which would mean about 1 out of 11, 1 out of 10 are in jail or prison. It's a difference between jail and prison. And it says something to the effect of only 1 in 200 Hispanic men would end up in prison, like 1 in 500. Basically, the article was stating that one of the reasons why is because for every 2 females out in public, you only have 1 male. So you might have one male with, let's say, what we call 2 or 3, quote unquote, for lack of better words, baby mamas. He might be involved in all 3 different mothers, the child he had with those different mothers' lives. And he can only live with one mother. So from the outside viewpoint, it would seem that, man, where's the father? But he's there, he just doesn't live with them. He's active, he just doesn't live with them. So that's a, you know.
And I want to transition into another point too. Another one thing is, before I directly piggyback off you, a lot of the media is going to talk about Black America and Black families and all these things, but you have to keep in mind who's talking and who's telling you these things. Now, and to piggyback off of what you said, I know this is purely anecdotal, but it's another example of how fathers are present, but may not be visible for all to see. And one thing you have to keep in mind, when it comes to your involvement with your child, your objective really shouldn't be to be visible to everyone. I can truly say that with my relationship with my son, his mother and I, we've had our ups, we've had our downs. There's been points where we couldn't speak to each other. Thankfully, things are on much better terms now. But at one of those points, I mean, we weren't talking directly at all for months, and we were pretty much doing everything through our parents by proxy. But one of the things somebody said to me was, well, I never see you posting anything of Leon on social media or anything like that, or I rarely see you out and about with them. Why? I don't think you have them. I don't think you do anything with them. And my thing is, I'm his father. He's my son. So where I go with them don't really matter to you, because you're outside of this equation. Only person that matters to should be his mother or any other caretaker. So keep in mind that just because you don't see someone doesn't mean that person isn't calling their kid, doesn't mean that they aren't going off, and maybe the weekends or special things where they take trips. Because even one of my frat brothers has a beautiful young daughter. She's so bright. And I ain't gonna say your name, but frat, you know who you are. He has a young son by another woman. Now, his son, he lives with his son and his child's mother in Georgia. His daughter stays in Illinois, outside of Chicago. I can tell you this. I've known dude for 4 or 5 years now. There has not been a day going by he hasn't talked to that little girl. Even though I don't know how many miles it is from Georgia to Chicago or whatever, he makes it a point to talk to his baby girl and let her know that he loves her. And during the summer, that's his time to get it. And that's long distance. But there are a lot of people that, for whatever reason, maybe that a job took them out of state and things like that, and they're in similar situations. So just because you don't, from somebody looking the outside in, they might think that, oh, this person's not involved, and it's further from the truth. It's just not the traditional nuclear family that we're thinking of.
And what I want to say is, I think a lot of times is that it gets promoted more and it seems worse because you have to take into context what's going on behind the scenes. Yeah. What I mean by that is this. We spoke about it in the earlier video, right? So we know that Black Americans have been put in a sociological, economical disadvantage, right? So now that we know that the majority of American babies are not born in 2-parent households, what the difference is, the majority of African Americans are living in a lower middle class or below the poverty line. So it's not really necessarily a black on black thing, it's an economic issue, it's a poor thing. When you have poor people, you have crimes, right? So now you have this group of people that's already predispositioned to more likely to live in a lower income or impoverished neighborhood. Then you add that with the denuclearization of the American family. So you have people getting incarcerated. And then you look and say, man, where's the fathers? But the difference is, Jim Swartz down the street, his group of people not doing any better than our group of people. But if you living in an upper middle class or even a middle class family or a rich family, being separated doesn't mean as much. And to prove my point, I would say this. Most people in Hollywood, we all know, been married 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. Yet still you rarely see their kids on the news for committing a crime. Why? Because their wealth places them at a less advantage of falling into a law enforcement loop or going to jail or going to prison. But when Susie down the street, she's by herself, living by herself, and she's already in this neighborhood, even though the father might have contact with them, it's a little more difficult because when you're living in a neighborhood that has all these vices and ills in it, that constant pressure and supervision is more needed than that group of people who's staying up in Beverly Hills or who's staying in the Catskill Mountains or whatever. You get what I'm trying to say? So yeah. I think that's another thing that affects it. It's basically what I'm trying to say, and I'm going to wrap it up on this. We're no different, basically numerical-wise from anybody else, but our consequences are different than everybody else's.
Yeah. And also, I want to come at it also from a little bit different perspective as well. Because technically, from a definition standpoint, technically you could say that I'm a product of a broken home. Because my father and my mother didn't live together. However, my father was always present in me and my brother's lives. And I think what you're talking about is a lot of people will look and say, they'll look at a mother and say, she's not married. And because she's not married, that man isn't always with her, that child isn't always with her. So they say the father isn't present as well. But I can say from my experience, my father, and first of all, I want to say I was really blessed because I know that a lot of people have some worse situations. Like, I can literally, if I got a football, I could literally throw a football and probably bust my dad's windows. Like, he stayed that close to my mom. Like, Bruce, you know.
This is true.
Like, and you know, he's been there all my life. So even though technically you could say it's a broken home, I would argue that
he stayed around the corner.
Like, I can literally walk to my pops. Not in this heat today, but but I can literally walk to my pops' house and get there in less than a minute. And you know, my father, anything I ever needed, he was there and able to provide. And you know, it was nothing for me to go, even if I wanted him there for something that he didn't know about it. It was nothing for me to go down there and get him. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing for me to go down there and talk to him. And I feel like a lot of people are in similar situations. Maybe not where they're possibly that close to them in that proximity, but where their father, they need something from them. Or if they want their father to be at an event or whatever it may be. They're literally just a phone call away. Because I know, this anecdotally speaking, I know a lot of guys and they're raising kids or they're involved in their kids' life in some way. If there's something coming up, like a school play, an awards day, something like that, moms, if a mom can't get off, a lot of times they'll raise fuss, but it is what it is. I've seen several fathers, they took it there, where it's like, yo, I can't get this day off, you won't understand. Like, yo, I need to be here for such X, Y, and Z. And I feel like it's an appearance issue more than anything else, because I feel like these guys are really involved in their kids' lives. It's just that, like I said, people are probably looking at mothers and not seeing the man there, assuming these things. Because like you said, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes when you look at someone and you just see someone at the store, or when you just see someone. Yeah.
And you know what they say? You know what they say about when you assume something.
Yeah. It's
like you said, if you see Shanquisha walking in the store with 2 kids, you might shake your head and say, another single mother. But if you see Becky walking in the store with 2 kids, then you might say, oh, the father's at work. But he might be just as good as the other guy. Matter of fact, the other guy might be working a 16-hour shift at the plant.
Yeah.
But it's what you project. And it goes back to stereotypes. And when we sat and we discussed this video and how we would come at it, and I named like several friends I had that their fathers were not in their life. But then it was foolish of me to say that because you have to look at this. You, Derek, not Derek, guy, he was in one of the other videos, the self-worth, this is a marriage video. Tim, my brother, Mike, Keith, Aaron, like, I could name all these guys, whether they live with their kids or not, they're very active in their child's life.
Yeah.
So to sit and say, I can never say that black fathers are missing the action because I'm a witness myself. My uncle, your father, which is my uncle, their brother, Uncle Daniel. I could go down the list. Basically, every male that I know personally is involved in their child's life. So how can black fathers be missing in action?
Well said, brother. Well, I think that'll do it for this week. This has been another edition of the Jay and Dre Show. Be sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Please help us get to 150 subscribers. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Share.
And follow us at the social media sites down below. Good night.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me.